Once upon a time, there were two little siblings named Hansel and Gretel. They were the children of a poor woodcutter and lived in a small cottage on the edge of a large forest. Their father loved them very much, but their stepmother was not such a good person. The family was very poor, and as the days passed, it became more and more difficult to find food. One day, the stepmother turned to her husband and said, "We cannot feed these children. All the food in the house is running out. We must take them to the forest and leave them, otherwise we will all starve to death." The poor father was very upset at this idea. He did not want to leave his children, but he was helpless and gave in to the stepmother's insistence. At night, when everyone was asleep, Hansel and Gretel heard this conversation. Gretel started to cry in fear, but Hansel comforted her. "Don't worry, Gretel. We will find a way," he said. Hansel went out immediately and collected small pebbles that shone in the moonlight. He put these pebbles in his pocket and returned. In the morning, their stepmother decided to take the children to the forest with their father. As Hansel walked, he threw the stones in his pocket one by one on the ground. These stones would form a path for them to return home. When they reached the depths of the forest, their stepmother and father left the children under a tree and said, "We will be back soon," and walked away. But they did not return. Hansel and Gretel spent the night in the forest. Gretel was very scared, but Hansel told her, "Don't worry, the stones will show us the way." When the moonlight shone through the trees in the morning, Hansel showed them the stones he had thrown on the ground. The two brothers followed the trail of stones back home. Their father was very happy to see them, but their stepmother was not happy at all. After a while, the food started to run out again. This time, the stepmother was more determined. "This time, we will take them deeper, and we will not let them return," she said. The father was very upset again, but he could not disobey his wife. Hansel wanted to go out again to collect stones, but this time his stepmother had locked the door. When Hansel saw this, he was worried, but he still thought of a plan. In the morning, their stepmother took the children back to the forest. This time Hansel tore crumbs from the bread in his pocket and threw them on the ground so they could find their way back home. However, this time things didn't go as planned. The birds had eaten the breadcrumbs. Hansel and Gretel had lost their tracks and were lost deep in the forest. Gretel asked in fear, "What are we going to do, Hansel?" Hansel told her to calm down, but this time she couldn't find a solution. They wandered through the forest for days, finding neither food nor a way out. They were unable to cope with hunger and fatigue. Just when they were in despair, they saw a house in the distance. But this was no ordinary house. The walls of the house were made of candies, the roof was covered in chocolate, and the windows were made of candies. Hansel and Gretel ran to this sweet house with excitement. Hansel broke a piece of candy and put it in his mouth, while Gretel tore a piece of the chocolate roof. At that moment, the door of the house creaked open, and an old woman came out. The old woman said in a sweet voice, "Oh, poor children, you look hungry and tired. Come in, I will make you something to eat." Hansel and Gretel believed the woman and went in. The old woman welcomed them with a warm meal. The woman smiled sweetly while the two children were eating. But in fact, this woman was a witch. She had deceived the children because she was planning to eat them. The next day, the witch locked Hansel in a cage and said to Gretel, "You will feed your brother until he gets fat. Then I will cook him and eat him." Gretel was very upset about this situation, but she had to obey the witch's orders. She brought food to Hansel every day, but at the same time she thought of a plan to save him. Every day, the witch looked at Hansel and wondered, "Have you gotten fat?" Hansel, on the other hand, acted cleverly and deceived the witch. Every day, The witch approached the cage to check Hansel's finger, but Hansel showed her a thin bone instead of his finger. The witch thought it was Hansel's finger because she didn't have very good eyesight and said, "He hasn't gotten fat yet. Let me feed him some more." But one day the witch became impatient. "That's enough. Whether he gets fat or not, I'm going to cook and eat Hansel," she shouted. She asked Gretel to prepare the oven. But Gretel was cunning. "I don't know how the oven works. Can you show me?" she said. The witch replied angrily, "Silly girl, of course I'll show you," and opened the oven door. At that moment, Gretel pushed the witch into the oven and closed the door. While the witch was roasting in the oven, Gretel quickly took Hansel out of the cage. The two siblings quickly ran away from home. They had found a treasure in the witch's house. It was full of gold and jewels. They managed to get these treasures and leave the forest. When they finally found their way back home, their father burst into tears when he saw them. Their stepmother had left home a while ago. Thanks to the treasures they found, Hansel and Gretel no longer suffered from hunger. They began to live a happy and peaceful life with their father, and never had any trouble again. In the end, Hansel and Gretel learned from this adventure and always supported each other and never lost hope no matter how difficult it was.